Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? This is Bob Gumps bringing you the Concern Forum. I hope everyone out there is feeling well. I hope your weather is better than ours here in New York. You know it's getting ready to rain. It surprised the living hell out of me, too. We just went through a period where we had about 5 days straight of pure rain. Fortunately, this time around, it won't last that long because, hell, we're, might as well say that we are now going into this, what is it, spring? Yeah, we're going into this summertime now because I believe June actually starts Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. Now, where are we? And why are we here? Well, I will tell you, right now, we have a situation. We have a situation right now where we're in big trouble. I know. We've been saying that now for the last couple of years. Unfortunately, it's true. You know, I caught something today on the what's the name of that newspaper? The Telegraph. And you know something? Uh, I kind of blame a large segment of the American media for this. I wonder how many of us realize the world is at war. Now, I don't know if that has really sunk in yet. And I know most people know that there's something going on in the Ukraine, right? And also that the Israeli government is still blasting the Palestinians to smithereens. But, you know, it's a lot deeper than that. And I think we as Americans, we need to realize this. We don't live in the world by ourselves. Now, I know you have these usually country and western people making these songs about, I am proud to be an American. You know, well, look, let me tell you something. I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud to have served my country. But I also realize that I should be proud to be a human being. Or put it another way, I should be proud to be a member of this planet. Because if you don't have a planet, you don't have a United States of America. America is not just a big piece of rock floating around in outer space, right? America is a nation, or you could call it a nation state, with about 200 other nation states, right? And I think that what has happened, and you see this especially with the right wing, you know, when you attack people for being, what do they call a globalist or an internationalist, I think that's one of the, you know, that's one of the dumb things that people on the right say. I got another, let me jot that down for a moment. I have another dumb thing that people on the right, especially MAGA folks, uh, terms that they like to use. But the idea of calling somebody a globalist, I think that's rather stupid. Because, yes, we all live on this globe. We all live on this planet. If the planet is not doing well, we are not going to be doing well. And that's something that, I don't know, Trump, the new Republicans, MAGA, all these birds, it's something that they don't seem to want to realize. Okay? Now, ideally, the nations of the world should come together and work together on things that essentially affect us all, like climate, for example, like the issues of war and peace. Now, look at here. You're not going to, nowadays, in this 21st century, you are not going to have a situation where you're going to have a major war and the United States and other major powers are not going to be involved. It's just not going to happen. And if you think that it's possible, then my God, I don't know what kind of education you received, what kind of school you went to, if you could believe that kind of nonsense. But the idea that we can all just hide away in some valley or some mountain range in Montana and say the hell with the rest of the world, it's not, it's not rational, quite frankly. It goes beyond not being logical. It's just not, it's not rational. And if you think I'm joking, talk to the farmers out there in the so-called heartland. Ask them what happened when they voted against their own interest and now they're going bankrupt. Nobody told them that they should vote to end their own existence, their way of making money, but they did. Now, I'm going to say this now, and I'm going to keep saying it until I'm green in the face. But the biggest problem that the American body politic faces is racism and sexism. Our problems that we have in this country stem from those two things. Now, of course, you have all other types of offshoots from that, right? You have the problem about the deficit. You have the problem uh, about the huge gulf between upper income and lower income people. But primarily, all this stems from racism. It's funny. Nobody had a problem with aid to people that needed it, right? There was no problem with that until we got into the late 60s. I remember, I was there, all right? As soon as the civil rights movement became the focus of, how we did the budget, right? The whole struggle for the civil rights and human rights of African Americans, then slowly but surely, this idea of handouts started to creep in, right? Watch, it's a good idea? If you can get some of the TV stations and cable stations that show old-time classic TV, check out All in the Family, of Archie Bunker. Check those shows out. And you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, that was like, what, early 70s, right? Listen to when they talk about, oh, yeah, the handouts. Oh, my tax money is going to pay for the loafers. That was one of Archie's favorite words, the loafers. See? Nowadays, here in America, we see the commercials, the public service commercials about feeding hungry kids here in America. We're not shocked when we see white kids trying to get lunch in school. But believe me, when that first came out, no one said a word about white people in terms of not being able to feed their families. It was a question of, oh, well, it's those blacks. And at that time, the thing was Puerto Ricans. Oh, they want to give our tax money to the blacks and Puerto Ricans, right? Especially if you lived in the Northeast. And then the people down south would say, well, yeah, up north, the blacks and Puerto Ricans, they're the ones that live off of welfare. All this kind of nonsense. See? Nowadays, that's been toned down somewhat because people realize now that skin color has nothing to do with hunger in this country. In a way, that's a good thing because at least now people recognize that there's nothing intrinsically wrong with being a person that needs help. But see, there again, you have a problem that stems originally from racism. The question of abortion, for example, right? When abortion was not an issue, when it first became, how should I say, well known in the 60s. Do you know most mainstream Republicans in the 60s going into the early 70s, they were pro-abortion. What's his name? What's the name of that guy? Senator from Utah, right? His mom and dad, because he was his dad was the governor, I believe, in Michigan. Republican, big time Republican. He was an acquaintance of my dad. And abortion to him was something that was a woman's right. And most Republicans felt that way. Some of the biggest critics against the war in Vietnam were Republicans. We wouldn't have a civil rights movement in this country. Excuse me. We would not have a civil rights bill in this country if it was not for the Republican Party. And see, if you don't know the history, or if you're trying to forget the history, people don't know that. But yeah, most Republicans originally were pro a woman's right to choose. But what happened, what they did, they substituted busing, right? Integration. They substituted those words and put in abortion. Okay? What's his name? Lee Atwater, famous young Republican. And he was the one that basically taught the modern, what we know today as the Republican Party. He taught them how to be anti-progressive, how to be I would call it anti-civil rights without looking anti-civil rights. He told the Ku Klux Klan, put away the sheets, put away the bed sheets and the hood. Put on the shirt and tie, right? Start talking about issues like abortion, okay? And that is how you make an appeal to working class, low income white folks. And that's what the Republican Party started to do. And that's why now the Republican Party, it is what it is. I know I grew up in a Republican family. My mom and dad were Republican Party activists. A lot of the civil rights people from the 50s and 60s, going into the early 70s, were Republicans, were registered Republicans. I come out the projects in Harlem. Most of the adults who were registered to vote, as we say back in the day, most of those folks were registered Republicans, even though they voted Democratic 9 times out of 10, especially for the Kennedys. But that's what happened in this country. And that's because of the fact that these two, how would you say it? These two things, sexism and racism, this is what happened uh, to this country because people basically, I don't know what it is with the American people, but somehow this whole race thing and sex thing, I throw in sex especially because what did we do? What did we do last year? We said no to a black Asian woman. Uh, the Republicans and the MAGA folks kept yelling DEI, DEI, whatever the hell that means. She's not experienced enough. She's not this, she's not that. And I said it before, and I'll keep saying it because people need to hear it. People need to start getting real. Donald Trump was nothing but a crook. What has he got? 31 convictions, right? This guy has been a convicted sex abuser. Uh, I don't want to say that he is a Russian agent. I don't believe that. I do believe that he is a tool for forces who are hostile to the American way of life. All of these things. And, all you have to do is look at Trump's record. And yet, this is the guy that we chose. Excuse me. I have somebody that's watching this, and unfortunately, we're having a little, how do they say it, technical difficulties. But getting back to the point, this is why the country is in the shape that it's in. We're fighting for our lives here. We're fighting for the life of our country. We are fighting for our democracy. And we need to get real about that. We don't need any more Democrats, by the way, who, quote a lot of MAGA phrases like when you're talking about woke. I am woke. I am proud to be woke. I am proud of the fact that I don't think I should go through life sleepwalking. Okay? Quite frankly, anyone that's not woke is an idiot. Because what use are you to society if you're asleep all the time? If you think that people should walk through life with their eyes closed. Listen to the things that MAGA and Republicans, listen to the things that the right wing says. Oh, and another point I want to raise, and that is this. Democrats, foolishly, I think, allow themselves to be attacked, right? For saying, oh, well, you left-wing people, you liberals, you progressives, you think that you're so smart and that you're better than us. Saying that we are the ones who look down upon low-income people, working-class people, which, of course, they mean to say you look down upon low-income, working-class white people, which is a damn lie. Because, as I said, I come out of the projects. My old man was a shop steward for the union. Okay? He was a shipping clerk, right? No elitist. But then let's look at the Trump cabinet. A bunch of millionaires, some cases crooked millionaires. But you don't think that that's elite? Trump crows about having gone to the best schools in America. Doesn't that make him part of the elite? But why do you say that progressives like myself, why do you call us elitists? Is it because we say that we fight for the rights of all Americans, whether they be black or white right? Whether they be straight or gay. I mean, isn't that what an American is supposed to be about? Isn't that what our Constitution is all about? You don't like a person's sex life, you don't like their personal sex life. So, therefore, you have the right to take away that person's rights. Us progressives, we say no. You shouldn't do that. That's not, that is not the American way. So how the hell does that make me elite? I'm trying to work this thing out somehow. And of course, you have a few pathetic blacks nowadays that call themselves conservatives, just like you have pathetic Latinos who call themselves conservatives. And see, these people apparently they haven't gotten the memo, right? Being conservative is, in this country, is essentially closely akin to being a member of the Ku Klux Klan. And I don't give a damn who doesn't like it. I don't give a damn what Democrat is cowering somewhere in the corner. Say, oh no, don't say that because you'll get you turn working class America against Democrat. No, I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn because one of the things that my traditionalist parents taught me was that a man stands up and he speaks what he sees to be the truth. It's just that simple. And, the idea that you're going to try, what is that term? Oh, God. Democrats are too much into ethnic politics? Well, tell me something. Be ready to condemn any mayor, Republican or Democrat, of any large city that attends a Columbus Day parade or who attends a St. Patty's Day parade. Okay? See, this is the thing. This is the, how should I say, and Democrats and progressives, we need to be able to stand up to this, right? Don't allow people to hand us this bullshit, because that's what it is, about, oh, well, Democrats and progressives, they always seem to be on the side of special interest. Meanwhile, MAGA and the Republicans, what do? Get tax breaks for millionaires and billionaires. Now, what the hell is more an example of kowtowing to special interest groups than that? Oh, and by the way, excuse me. Okay, let me fix this here. Oh, okay. Let me fix this right quick. Okay. There we go. Let me fix this here. But I get so sick and tired of progressives who, I don't know, they seem to lose their courage and not to stand up to the nonsense that Trump and MAGA put out there. Now, you have Trump, basically, the man belongs in jail as far as I'm concerned, right? This guy is using the nation's capital, our capital, right? That's not his house. The White House is not his house. It's where he resides. It's the people's house. It belongs to all Americans. This guy is what's the thing? Bitcoin, right? He's turning it. He's turning the White House into like a money making scheme. I want somebody to tell me, show me in the Constitution where that is legal. I can show you things in the Constitution that says it's not, but where are our elected officials having the courage to stand up and to say, "No, man, we can't allow this, Mr. President. If you don't stop this, then you're going to have to go." It's just that simple. And we have mechanisms, legal mechanisms, to make that happen. And I wish to God our elected officials would start showing a little testicular courage and do their job, quite frankly. It's sad, really, because the danger of racism in this society, a prime example, really great example. Now, Trump basically ran a campaign based on racism, okay? That's all he's done since he's come on the American political stage, right? He looks to the South. And I say to the South in general, because I can assure you, Donald Trump, and as a matter of fact, most of his non-Latin MAGA followers, they don't know the difference between my Dominican grandfather and a gentleman from Mexico City. But in their minds, if you're dark brown skin or brown skin, you're a criminal, right? And no, nobody says anything about we should have an open door policy. This planet, right? It's not ready for that. It's not ready for that type of openness. Okay, we haven't reached the time of Star Trek yet, right? God willing, someday we will. And we'll all learn to sit in the circle and sing Kumbaya together, right? I hope that's what everybody hopes for, right? Not to get religion into it, but I'm a Christian. And I believe in the brotherhood of humankind. But we have not yet reached that point in man's development as of yet. So, yeah, some type of rules and regulations governing the conduct of how we handle immigration country to country is necessary, right? I don't believe in open borders, okay? Yes, I want to know who's coming into my country. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? But with Donald Trump, it's all based upon race. It's based upon color, right? Why else would you chase out Latinos, many of whom have been in America for years and years? Oh, and by the way, there are a lot of reasons why somebody could be in this country for 15, 20 years and never, get citizenship or apply for citizenship. Okay? You don't believe me? Ask the mother of Joe DiMaggio. That was her situation. I don't even think the lady ever learned how to speak English. Right? That's why you should not simply criminalize someone for trying to come into your country. Does that mean that you necessarily let them get away with it? No. But you don't have to take away their children, lock them up in concentration camps and all that other nonsense. That's not necessary. Because somebody says, well, I want to come to your country because I think it will be, I'll have a better way of life for myself and for my children. Well, how the hell do you think America got here in the first place? Why do you think people came here in the first place? For a better life. But no, what Trump is doing and what MAGA is talking about, they're talking about pure racism. That's why he chases out Latinos and he brings in people, Afrikaners from South Africa. And why would you do that, Donald? Because there is no white genocide going on in Southern Africa. I'm going to be in Southern Africa hopefully in another month, right? So please, I'm fairly, I'm fairly well informed about what takes place in Africa, uh, especially Southern Africa. And for what you're saying is a lie, Donald. But you know what it is. See, I know what it is, Donald. You want to get your hands on those minerals. You want to see about making some money. And you interfering or trying to interfere with what's happening in South Africa, that's just that's a backdoor way for you to get into African business. That's all it is. And also jealousy, right? Because you're jealous of the fact that the Chinese have made major inroads in Africa. Now, listen, I'm not a fan of the Chinese government, okay? And I shouldn't be because I'm an American, which means that I believe in democracy, I believe in individual freedom, I believe in how we do things in the democracies. America, Britain, Australia, Europe, Western Europe, right? We're all based on, to one form or another, we are based on democracy, right? But just because I'm not an admirer of a non-democratic nation doesn't mean I have to hate them, okay? Doesn't mean I have to go to war against them. And see, the way that Donald does business is that he wants to do the same thing on the world stage that he has done on the American stage. He wants to basically rule by spreading lies, hate, and turning groups against each other. As Trump and the Republicans have done here in the United States, they have worked overtime. They worked overtime before the November elections to turn Latinos against the African American community, which just shows how ignorant Republicans have become, quite frankly, because of the fact that being Latino, that's a culture, a very vibrant, very interesting, very good culture. But it is not a race of people. You have white Latinos, you have black Latinos, you have brown Latinos, to be quite frank about it. But here in America, because of the chattel slavery that we practiced for 400 years, and the Jim Crow, and that that good stuff, our minds in this country, and I mean black and Latino as well as white folks, have been so twisted, see, that we have been taught to basically turn against each other as opposed to joining hands and working with each other, thanks to people like Donald Trump and his MAGA followers. I come from a Latino family on my father's side. My father was born in the American Virgin Islands. However, his father was Dominican, and his mother was a Haitian lady. I'm born and raised right here in New York, right here in Harlem. My mother comes from down south of Virginia, right? So I have that culture in my veins, right? But see, with Donald, it's it's so crazy. Nobody bothers to take a look at the fact that his family's only been in this country since about the 1890s, right? On my mother's side, we've been in this country since the 1680s. So who in the hell is Donald to walk around talking about who's American and who ain't? I know his grandfather was a draft dodger. I know his father was a draft dodger. I know he was a draft dodger. So, who the hell is he trying to wave the flag in other people's faces? I don't, why do we let him get away with this nonsense? And I would say that to my friends in the Democratic Party, of which I'm a proud member. Why do we let Trump, and not just Trump, but a large segment of the media get away with this nonsense? Why do Latinos let Donald Trump get away with this nonsense? This man calls everybody from the south of the border a murderer or a rapist or a thief, says the guy with 31 convictions. Why do we allow that? Why do we let him get away with that? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because of the racism and sexism. Because what they did, Trump and his MAGA followers spread this crap about, oh, well, Kamala, she doesn't really have any program. That's a damn lie. And anybody, I don't give a damn what party you're from, who says that Kamala didn't have a program, they're telling a damn lie to the American people and to themselves. I sat down and I've seen her rallies. I saw what she had to say. And the woman did have a program. She spoke about how she could help young couples buy their first home. I never heard Trump say anything about that. I don't get it. She talked about health care. I think the problem, you know what? I think the problem with the Harris campaign, and her vice president, they should have let those people be who they were. Because when she started out, her and her vice president, they were on fire. Okay? And I think the problem was the the upper echelons of the Democratic Party, and we need to start facing the facts, the American people. Listen, the world is almost in a state of war, okay? You look at what's happening, like I said earlier, talking about the Middle East, talking about what's going on in the Ukraine, talking about what could happen with the Indian-Pakistan border, right? Talk about what's going on with China in the Pacific. This is not an active state of war on this planet. It is definitely not a state of peace, right? And in this dangerous, confusing time, we here in America, we chose to put a guy in the White House, a guy who has his finger on the big red button, who has the warrant officer always a few steps behind him with that, like a typewriter briefcase thing, right? You know what that is? That's the nuclear codes to launch Armageddon, right? And you decided to put a guy in there that says that black people steal their neighbors' pets, their dogs and cats, and eat them, right? This is what Donald Trump did. And then when he was called on it, he said, well, I was just passing it along. Well, you know damn well when you pass something along like that, on the internet, you're essentially saying, yeah, I agree with this nonsense. So you think about that. Honestly, the next time you want to lecture your kids about honesty and character, you think about that. And the next time you want to lecture them about not doing things dangerous, that are dangerous, and you want them, you're going to lecture them about being responsible, you think about that. Seriously. You put a guy in the White House who could launch a thermonuclear war destroying this planet, who believes that black folks steal dogs and cats from their neighbors and cooks them and eats them. And you wonder why the rest of the world looks at you kind of funny? You wonder why Denmark and Canada and the European Union look at you kind of like, no thanks, you'd rather not. And you wonder why Africa looks at you and, well, they're not perfect, but let's see what the Chinese folks would like to do. And you wonder why. That is what, to me, that is what is so sad. I love this country. I served, I think, most of my adult life. It was wrapped up with the military, Army, Navy, regular duty, reserve. I love this country. I love what we say that we stand for. But there comes a point where sometimes you have to sit down and you have to look at yourself. You never, what is that? Oh, God. We never see ourselves as other people see us. It's something like that. But I believe it to be true. Because we're ridiculous. We look ridiculous. Grabbing people off the streets and sending them to Never Never Land in El Salvador. Right? What the hell is this America? What, you're going to try and attack a university, number one, because they wouldn't admit your kid, right? And number two, because you think you have the right to tell universities what they can and cannot teach. Well, that's the same thing the Nazis did. What was that? 33, 34, when the Nazis took power in Germany. That's the same kind of thing they did. And had the Jewish professors fired. What's the difference between what the Nazis did in the 30s and what we are watching this guy attempt to do and actually do in many cases now? I don't understand it. I really don't. But see, these are the things that we have to deal with. And I would suggest that my party, the Democratic Party, stop this, stop punishing yourselves, We stand up for the right things. Why should we be ashamed of that? It's unfortunate that you got to remember something, low income, and, let's, pardon the pun, but let's call a spade a spade. A lot of low-income Americans, in particular white Americans, they have been brainwashed and bullshitted for so long that, just like the people in MAGA, right? That's a cult. And you have a lot of people who have left MAGA will tell you that. Yeah, I was in a cult. And they say, well, I realize that now. And see, that's the same thing that has happened here in America with to a large extent, working class people. I remember when I was on active duty and I was overseas in different places in Europe talking to people, and somebody made a very interesting point. America, we are about the only country where we don't have a real labor party, so to speak. Other Western countries, Western democracies, they have like a labor base, more or less. America doesn't have one because what America has done, or I should say, certain forces here in America have been able to do, they've been able to have the working class basically vote against itself. And that's why, for us to be the wealthiest democracy, right, we have the worst quality of life. You know, I mean, hey, man, it sucks, all right, here in America. It truly does. And that doesn't say, oh, America, oh, bad, 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 right? If you have a situation in a family where your family members are just, they're going off the deep end, right? You don't just turn your back on them. You try and say, well, listen, man, maybe I can help you do this or I can help you do that. Sometimes, no matter what you try and do in family, it don't work. And that's unfortunate when it does happen. But you at least try. And that's what that's what progressives are trying to do. Progressives and Democrats, those of us who have the courage to speak out, that's what we're trying to do. How did my man say? You're a very good friend. Bill, look, you're drunk, man. Let me get the keys to the car because you're drunk right now. You're not in any shape to drive. Doesn't mean that you don't love Bill as your friend anymore. It means that his course of action is dangerous for himself and for other people. It doesn't mean, oh, well, damn it, Bill, you're crap. I don't want nothing to do with you. I'll never try to help you again. Blah, blah, blah. No, you trying to, Bill, maybe you need to stop drinking so much. Maybe you need to get some counseling or something like that. And that's what this is. It's not wrong to say that America has the worst quality of life out of any industrialized democracy. What's wrong is that it's true. And that's something that we need to fix. That's the purpose of elections, for crying out loud. So that we don't, every few years, all of a sudden, hey, break out the guns. Give me some ammo. We're going to attack him on Main Street. We don't do that. Because we have elections where people sit down and we talk about stuff. And, you're wrong about this, and here is why. Okay? That's, everybody talks about the right wing always wants to talk about the founders, but they never talk about what the founders actually did. They sat down and they read about stuff. They researched. They discussed things, right? Only time it failed for Shays' Rebellion because nobody was listening on the other side. And so they had to fix that. And then you had the Civil War because you had an insurmountable question. You had an insurmountable problem, right? People are not, we should not have chattel slavery in America, no matter what color a person is. That was the bottom line. And that had to be dealt with. And it was tragic. It was monstrous. But it had to be done. But generally, that's how you solve things. Democracy is not easy. It's not easy by a damn sight. But it's much more. It makes much more sense to sit down at the table, bring your research, talk to people, right? Why do you think that? Why do you think a woman should not have a right to choose her own destiny? Why do you think that it's okay to say this group of people who live in this area should not be allowed the same right to vote as where you live? Why should it be that you have this huge gulf between those who have and those who have not? I would much rather see these things discussed and discussed and debated upon, right? Than people take to the streets trying to kill each other. That's what democracy is supposed to be about. Unless Sister Mary St. Raphael, taught me the wrong thing when I was in St. Thomas the Apostle. Jesus, man. And then this, Trump is something that it's, I keep hearing all this nonsense about, oh, well, Trump was able to. No, Trump wasn't able to do a damn thing. All he did was he appealed to prejudices and to ignorance. That's basically all the hell Trump did. Nothing else. Don't take my word for it. Look at what Trump wants to put out. He wants to stop any kind of medicated Medicare. And he's told you this. Look what he did to the Latinos, right? And look what he did to the Republican Party. Up until November of 2024, MAGA and the Republican Party, they loved Latinos. They had all them, downtown Miami had them rally. Yeah, Venezuelans for Trump, Cubans for Trump, right? And right after this guy takes office in January, he starts throwing them out of the country. Look at all the Trump leaders in Florida who had their children, their husbands, their wives thrown out of the damn country. Come on, man. I mean, what's up with you people? Is the idea of being associated with a just cause, i.e. civil rights, somehow you think that that's like a stain upon your character or something to be associated with that? No, civil rights is for everyone, not just for black people. We don't. That's why a lot of blacks now, right? Because I see this a lot on the internet. Where are the black people? What do you mean we're the black people? Where are the black people? We're right here. We've been here for over 400 years. We begged you. I'm not talking about those idiots that supported Trump, right? But the mass majority of black people, we begged you. Trump is going to hurt all of us, we said. We're not just saying this because we are black. We are saying this because we are just one group of people among others that Trump is going to hurt. Please listen to us. Listen to what the woman has to say. I know in Florida, you yelled at Harris supporters. One woman told me that, they threw things at them, and we begged them. We begged them to listen to us while they were throwing stuff at us, right? Imagine that. You're begging. Please listen to me. Oop, better duck. We did all that, and you wouldn't listen. And I tell you, quite frankly, I was surprised. And I've watched Trump since I was 13 years old. And I was surprised with the speed that Trump started throwing Latinos out of the country. It was, it was, to me, it was absolutely incredible. But he did, and you were warned. We begged you. We begged you to look at the facts, right? And farmers, oh my God, y'all really blow my mind. Because the people who worked for you, who made your money for you, that's what I really cannot get. These are the people that made your money, right? And you voted for a guy who told you that he was going to take your laborers and run them out of the country. Lock them up, throw them away, the whole bit. And you didn't listen, and you voted for them anyway. You voted for them anyway. And now you're all over the internet crying because the farm has been in your family for like the last 150 years is now going to be bankrupt. You got some states who are going to be bankrupt because the labor, they've run away. Of course they're going to run away. You want to lock me up if I show up to work? What am I going to do? What else am I going to do? And the brainwashing in this country, brainwashed. See, this is the problem here in America. Racism, sex, it makes you cut your own throat. Life is hard, right? Don't do stupid things. And when you do stupid things, life becomes much harder. But it's really hard when you commit suicide. And that's what so-called middle America, that's what you have been doing, right? And yeah, that's a good question. What's the matter with Kansas? That's what's wrong with Kansas. Using that as a symbol for middle America in general. You voted for the guy that ran your labor out of the country. And then you wonder why you're going bankrupt. And then we wonder, wow, why is the price of food so high? Huh? You make it almost like a suicide mission to pick the grapes, to pick the fruit, to pick the lettuce, to do the harvesting, slaughter the animals, all that stuff. That's how we eat in this country. And when you make it difficult for people to do that, makes the price more expensive. That's not too hard to figure out, or is it? But see, this is the insanity that we have to break through. And Democrats, we need to lead the charge. Progressives, we need to lead the charge. Veterans, we need to lead the charge. What's the first thing Elon Musk did? Firing federal workers. You got men and women who have risked their lives for this country. Many of whom have been handicapped, crippled, no arm or no leg, or in some cases even worse. These are the people that Elon said was okay to fire. Trump hires a guy, right? No, I don't even really hire them, but he brings in the guy from South Africa, from apartheid South Africa, who ran to Canada, and then he ran from Canada to the United States. What the hell does Elon Musk know about American patriotism? Will someone tell me? He knows about it as much as Donald Trump, which is absolutely nothing. Yes, that's why I fear for my country. I love my country, but I fear for my country. I truly do. Listen, folks, it's time to wrap it up. I hope that I've been able to blow away some of the cloudiness over these issues. And I'll be back same time, same channel next week. Bob comes with the Concerned Forum. Take care. Bless you. And peace.